Thank you very much for having me here. So yeah, I'm Kaper, the CEO of Swipes, and I'm here to talk to you about how to grow your app the hard way. Because as we all know, the hardest thing about building a product is to get traction. So I want to share with you the learnings that we've had by growing our app and our product using smart media strategies and partnerships. So I'm an interaction designer by background. I self-taught myself iOS development. I've worked on startups since the age 19, which now should be 6 years. And I'm from Denmark, and I'm currently living in Sofia for the last 18 months. Ами по принцип мога да говоря само на български, но днес ще говоря на английски. Добре ли е? I really love it down here in Bulgaria, and people always ask me, why is it that you're down here? What makes you stick? And the answer is pretty easy. It's 50% business and 50% love. So I'm not going anywhere. So at Swipes, what we're doing is we're a productivity company that are trying to make the tools and the methods that you're using to become more productive and get a better workflow in your life. We started out as an iOS application, and now we're on Android. We have a Mac app and a desktop. And we are slowly growing into becoming a bigger company that is, our vision is to make the Nike for productivity, become the brand that you're relating to when you're thinking about taking action and achieving goals. So so far we've had 300,000 downloads. We've achieved every one of them the hard way. We have to fight for every single one of them. And that's mainly what I'm here to share with all the learnings about being on the big medias, about we won the award from Best New Startup from Evernote, and how we kind of have built that relation and partnership with them. But first, let's get a reality check, because we're living down here and we wake up every single morning reading about the new app that are getting millions in funding, and kind of get this picture around that this is just such a great space to be in, because there's just flying millions off the ground, and you just need to go on that tech crunch and everything is going to be great. But in reality, that's not how it looks like. There are 2.5 million apps in the App Store. So no matter what app you're doing, there is a shitload of competition out there. You're fighting really against a lot of different players. In fact, 0.5% manages to get over 50,000 users, which is an insanely low number if you think about how much effort there's put into developing all these apps. So that is what I'm here to share with you about. How did we break through that one? How has we managed to just keep pushing in all the hard times? But first I want to take you back to back when we were starting Swipes, and it was 2 years ago. We just have been building this product for a month. We were pushing it we just submitted it to the App Store. We were waiting, and we went to some investors in Denmark, and we pitched them and said, guys, this is awesome. We're pushing this app. We're just going to go on TechCrunch. We're going to take off, and things are awesome. And Lars, the investor, he was looking at us very skeptical and very serious. And he was like, that's great, guys, but what happens the day after TechCrunch? And this question has been stuck in my mind so much, and I didn't understand it back then. But I also looked back at our business model back then, which was basically, Swipes is a great product. You could sell it everywhere to everyone. So no wonder we didn't have that much comprehension of that. We did, though, keep pushing it, and we went on the next web. We got 1,800 downloads in one day. We've been featured on Apple. We got 500 to 1,000 downloads every day. And we went on Lifehacker. We got 1,200 downloads, 1,800 downloads. Numbers, what does it matter? But what had all these in common was that, well, a day or two after, we went right down, and we had less than 100 downloads every single day, and we just couldn't get it to grow. So all these big media things, it didn't matter. It didn't change. We were not a success. We just got a big spike, and then we were right back fighting for every one of them. So, however, what it does give you is that being on the media gives you the credibility, right? Because we've all seen it, like, oh, that's awesome. This is how, as the ones that were seen on TechCrunch or in the Wall Street Journal, we get so impressed, and people instantly think that this must be the shit because they've been there, right? So I want to share all the things around the working with big medias that we've learned along the way. And basically, it's all about the story. If you want to be on big media, you need to have the big story. They're not going to care about some small little startup in a country they haven't heard of that raised some money from an accelerator fund they also haven't heard of, and then they launched an app that they couldn't care less about. It's just not really how they work, right? So we tried that, it didn't work. Then we figured out, what if we could leech on some of the big guys? What if because the medias want to write about Apple and Elon Musk, how he's going to space and taking weird people with him. And so could we find any kind of success that we could leech on that they could relate to so that they would share it with their users and or their readers? But back then, there was this app called Mailbox, which was an email client. They did it really well. They sold for 100 million to Dropbox not so long earlier than that. And our app was basically relating very much to that. We did for tasks what they're doing for emails. So we tried to come up and say, hey, we're the mailbox for tasks, and put the story around that. And we managed to push our story through that way. We got a lot of different publicity from people that, from the medias that could relate to that we were that success. We were relating to that success that we were trying to. So if you can find any kind of things where you can kind of like relate you to the big guys, it's a great way to build the story, at least if you want to go for big medias. So the next thing we also learned is that it's really all about the right medias, because you don't want to, like, if you want to go for Wall Street Journal or New York Times or something like that, they're not going to write about any new apps. They write about big, highly solved problems, or Apple launching the new stuff, or whatever that is. So finding out what is the right media that you should share the story that you have, or at least try to make a story that fits towards these. And I want to share you a hacky little trick that we're using at Swipes. So we just go to the place, we want to be here. We use the inspector in Chrome, and boom, we're there. So you can insert yourself, and you can try read your story and see, would this fit in there? Because if what's going to be on top is like Elon Musk went to space and Apple launched the new Apple Watch, then your story should also, does it fit in there? So we've used that a lot to kind of like get an idea whether or not this is the right people to go for. And the last thing that we've learned is around timing. Timing is everything. If you're going to launch your new app, don't launch it on the day where Steve Jobs is pulling out that iPhone. That's just not going to work. They care nothing about your app. They want to write about what is Apple coming up with, what's happening at the Worldwide Developer Conference, and whatsoever. And we also learned this the hard way, of course. And because we were at this Evernote conference, where Evernote, our partner, who's making productivity app for note-taking, they have over 100 million users. They're quite big, and every year they have this conference where they're telling all the new things that is going to happen in Evernote and the upcoming things. And they also had 3 startups coming over competing for the award that they've given. So when we won that on the last day of the conference, we were so excited and reaching out, hey, journalist, you wrote about Evernote. Don't you want to write about us? Nah, they did not care about us at that point, because they've already written about all the things Evernote did, so they were not so interested in writing more. They were saturated with Evernote stories. So when you're trying to figure out when to launch, go for the times when nothing else is happening, because that's when the journalists are searching for stories and want to like, it's going to be much easier to push yourself in. It's a really valuable lesson. When you're trying to work with big medias, you kind of like have to work with journalists, because that's the ones that are pushing the stories. So I also want to give you some of the lessons that we've had by working with these different journalists. So the first one is that you need to find the right journalist, because every one of them is different. We were searching so much in the early days about getting on TechCrunch. We wrote all these Silicon Valley journalists from TechCrunch, like, hey, we want to write about this. Not even responding, right? But then we found this guy, he was from Europe, called Steve O'Hear, and we thought, well, he's from Europe. He might have heard of the country we're coming from, so we might have something in common we could talk about. Yay! We got in touch with him. We got him to check out the integration with Evernote that we've made, but he wasn't really into Evernote. He didn't use it, he didn't know about it, so what was it he should be so passionate about? He didn't really get. So when you're trying to find the journalist, really try to find the people that are writing about the space that you're in or something similar, so that you can make them passionate about the story that you're telling them. The second thing with journalists is really, if you can, get an intro. This changes everything. We tried to get in touch with this guy called Ryan Lawler from TechCrunch back in the days, and he never replied to us. But then we had an advisor called Scott Sanfilippo who sold his company to Yahoo. He made a virtual assistant called Donna, and he knew this Ryan guy, and he made an intro to us, and suddenly everything changed. Ryan responded to us because, as you can imagine, all these journalists, they're getting hundreds and hundreds of emails every single day about, hey, I'm the founder of this kind of startup, it's cool, we're launching this new thing, it's great, do you want to cover us? So he has to filter out from the 500 emails that he gets, which thing is it that he should follow. So if you can get someone, just someone that knows someone to refer you, it's making one world of a difference. So we got this referred to Ryan. He's now a user every day of our app. We didn't have a story back then, but we talked with him, and now he's following us and using our app and all that. So it's a great way to build up relationships with journalists to get intros and all that. And the best way that you can also help journalists is really to give them stories, because if you think about it, they're just people that have to make content. So if you want to build a relationship, try tell them about the 3 best startups that you know and say, hey, you should actually check this one out. It's cool because X, Y, Z. Because it's really what they're looking for. So the more you can also help out people, the better situation you're gonna be in when you want to get covered. And the last thing, again, learn the hard way, keep track of them. Because when you're writing to hundreds of journalists, we use a system called Podio. It's basically just a content management system. We just can put in every journalist that are writing about content that that would be relevant for us, or the ones that are sharing content about us. If we've been writing about something, we post it in there so that also when we are doing our push, we know exactly who we're going to push through, and we can make a more structured way. So do yourself a favor and keep track of this from day one. It's really, really important. So yeah, that is for the big media. It's all about the stories, and you need to pick the right medias and just get the timing right. The next thing that I'm gonna run over to is the difference in between a big media push and a gradual media push. Because we found out that while all these spikes that we're getting, it's not really making that big of a difference. We get boom, and then we go back down again. So what we've tried is different. We try to figure out how can we involve as many small influencers, medias, or whatever is interesting in that space to try help us push this and see if we can get all the small little pieces to make a big difference. And we've been quite successful with doing that a couple of times now. So just to give you an idea around how this could look like, we start off, we try and make the strategy that we start with our users. So because these are the people that care the most, so we want to engage them as much as possible and see can we get them to help us, because they know who we are. They can be they could be the voice. We can, and then we go slowly on to go for influencers. We look for bloggers, for who are the important people on Twitter that people are following, and who's the voice in the industry. And then we start moving towards more like medias. And then after that, when you have all those things pushed, then you go to the big media and say, hey, we actually made success now, you should maybe cover us, because they would rather cover you when you're a success, not when you're unknown. So it's a really great way to build it up instead of trying to just keep fighting for those big stories. An example of what we've did, we were making this Gmail integration because our app is made in this way where we are collecting your tasks from a lot of different places. So we get them from Evernote in your notes, now we get them from your email, and then you have all your tasks from all your places in one place, and you can be straight on your priorities. So we were making this into this Gmail integration, and what we basically did, we started off with just making a blog post, writing about what is it that we're launching, putting up some exciting teasers and all that, and then we started just so we had like an entry point for people to come into, so that when we can send them somewhere and say, this is the thing that's going to happen. Then we started writing to all our users, and we said, guys, we have 100 spots for people to try it 3 days before we actually launch it. You just need to help us a little bit here. We got over 1,700 people that was like fighting for those spots. Like scarcity is a good way of getting people's interest. And yeah, we basically asked them for tweeting. So we got around 1,700 tweets that was just going all nuts about it. So we had to extend the beta a little bit with a couple of hundreds. But that went really, really well. And now we kind of have all these engaged. And then we moved on to, because now there was this successful blog post that had a shitload of traction. They could see that a lot of people were engaged on Twitter. And then we started to push for influencers, and we looked at forums, at YouTube, who was the reviewers and all that. And basically that's when you're starting finding like cool people like this guy, who's just randomly reviewing your app, and it gives you more traction than it would actually have done from an article. So that was kind of cool. Yeah, he's a weird old guy that says funny things about your app. It's the other thing where we also had some learnings was on the Android, because we were launching our Android version. This is less than 2 months ago, and we basically reached out to the medias again and like, just quickly, do you want to write about it? Nah. Okay, doesn't matter. We'll just find every single small Android media, every single Android influencer, and everyone that's involved, that's passionate about Android, and we'll share it with them, and we'll see where that goes. And we, in the first 2 weeks of launching, we got 30,000 downloads, and we pushed it to the top 5 in productivity, and we got covered by all the Android media outlets out there. So it had much, much better effect than the 1,800 downloads from an article on Lifehacker or something like that. So it's really a great way to build up your traction in a different way, and also for inbound marketing, for SEO and all that. You suddenly have a lot of places linking towards you. And that's pretty much it for media. So now I'm going to jump over to growth hacking through integrations and partnerships, and I basically want to take you through the story of how we build a partnership with these guys, Evernote, who clearly, they're pretty big, they have a lot of money. We went there, they gave us a little bit of them. We thought they were a little cheap, but it was such a great adventure, and I want to take you through how we kind of like have built up that strong relation to them that we've ended up getting. And the first step was pretty much to find out what integration to make, right? If we want to make a partnership or a link up to something, which one should we choose? And so we sat down and we were like, okay, the users of Swipes, that's entrepreneurs, it's freelancers, it's project managers. What kind of other tools are these guys using? What are they using in their everyday life, and what could we become complementary to? And that's a really good way of finding it. That's how we found Evernote. But then comes the thing, you're making a partnership with someone who's much, much bigger than you. It's a big corporation. You're basically no one sitting somewhere they've never heard of. So how do you make them care? How do you make them actually care about who you are and try help? That they see value in both helping you by helping themselves and all these things, right? So the first thing that we started being when we did this integration was like, if we make this, are they just going to copy it themselves? Because, we're all sitting here in our little labs and we're like, fuck, this is the best idea in the whole world, right? What if the big guys are just going to take them? So we thought, well, we better get in touch with Evernote. So we tried to hack ourselves a connection in there. We find through a third grade connection, somehow we got an intro to the VP of partnership, Alex Pachikov, who then sent us off to our friend Jervis. And Jervis was handling all these relations with developers and partners and all that. So we talked with Jervis, and he was, guys, Evernote is all about making a note. We make notes. We are pretty busy making notes. We're not going to start doing what you're doing. We're not going in that direction, but we would love to give you feedback or help you out when you're getting there. We would love to look at it, basically, when you're having it. We didn't have anything. We did this before. We even wrote a line of code. So we just tried to reach out to as many potential partners as possible to find the path of least resistance. So yeah, we basically got a green light from Jervis, so we started making the actual product. We made an, now we could just sit down, we could build for a couple of months, we got the integration up and running, and we sent it back to Jervis, and he sent us, of course, an Evernote filled with a lot of feedback. 2 pages or something like that of things he wanted to change because he thought that was better for Evernote users. And this is where the key comes to when you can make, how can you make them care? Because they're a big corporation, they're moving with snail speed. So we just thought, well, let's show them that we care. So we sat down for a week, implemented all his feedback, and we sent him back a new version and saying like, Jervis, what do you think? Now we fixed it. And he got super excited, like, guys, that is so cool, that was really fast. But we were still only talking with Jervis, and Evernote is like a really big corporation with a lot of people. Jervis is not handling everything. So how do we get past that, one connection point? Because you want to spread yourself in there as much as possible. You want everyone inside their company to know about you. So you really can see that you care and they want them to care, right? So we thought, well, let's just involve as many people as possible. We started asking for, can you get us some beta testers? Who do you think would like that? We would love some feedback from Evernote Business, from the marketing team. We just started pushing Jervis around, finding interesting people inside Evernote. And then we did a really smart thing that we made some, first of all, a cool video that showed, a teaser of what is this integration all about, and then we sent it over to them, and they were like, wow, this is so cool, you're so serious, guys. And they started sending this around inside their office. And we started just gaining a fan base inside Evernote because everyone was just so excited about it. We were just these pushy, that came out of nowhere and just pushed ourselves in everywhere. Yeah, that's a really good lesson to just like figure out how the heck can you just get to know as many people as possible. Because when you're getting inside, as you saw, we get to the VP of partnership. We thought, let's go to the top, right? And then he sent us to the bottom, basically, right? We just got one entry point with the guy that is handling all these things, because you're not going to talk with the CEO or some kind of VP of whatever you're doing. You get the ones that set up already for handling that. But then use that guy to get him excited and spread you everywhere you basically can get and get help from them. They all see a big value in that. So the next thing is, when you get the chance, you better need to take it. We got nominated with 5 other companies for this Best New Startup, and we were looking at the competition. It's like, oh, well, they have millions. There were like 2 Silicon Valley companies with millions of funding and shitload of users, and we thought, how the heck are we going to beat those guys, right? We're just sitting down here. But then we started thinking that, well, in Silicon Valley, they're just one of so many, and no one really cares about those things over there because there happens these things all the time. So what we did instead was we took it down here. We said, well, down here we care because down here this matters. So we pushed it through all the local medias because it was a big story. It was a big story that we were nominated for this big award in the US. So we got almost 90% every single Bulgarian to vote for Swiped, and we beat those guys from the Silicon Valley. And we got invited with 2 other companies, we're 3 in total, for the final kind of like award at their conference to compete with them. And the way we should beat the last 2 guys was 50% through Twitter. We just needed to get as many votes as possible. And the other half was Evernote that was choosing who are they going to pick. Who they like the most, right? But then we faced another challenge, which was that the guys we were competing with on Twitter were this Brazilian startup called Blogo. But they also used that local strategy. And Brazil have 300 million people, and Bulgaria have, I don't know, 60 in here, right? That's pretty much an unfair competition. We did compete though, but in the end they won. I think they won with like 50 tweets or something. It was an insane battle. We were just sitting there all day for like, no, tweet, everyone go. But the thing was that because we've spread ourselves, because everyone inside Evernote knew us, they were so in love with us, and the jury chose us anyway, because we've just we just pushed ourselves to getting influence. So Evernote awarded us, and it was super awesome. They now wrote a big story about it. There were parties in San Francisco. But then we go back to what this great Danish investor guy is like, what happens the day after Evernote? Nothing. Evernote don't care about getting more swipes. Of course they care, but it's not like they sit worryless of night to figure out how are you going to get more users. They're going on with their own roadmap, starting to build their own features, and they would forget anything about you if you don't just keep annoying them and pushing yourself in there. So we did that. We just started like, okay, well, let's make a banner. Let's get it down in the marketing department. Hey, feature us. We've made this nice banner. We made blog post that was relevant for Evernote users and our users, and we started pushing them to share it on Facebook, on Twitter, with their Evernote account, and we started to get them to include. We followed their blog and saw like, what are they going to write about? What is these things? And then we started just contacting them and saying, hey, next time could you include this? We have some good content there. We made some nice videos around technically how to use it. So at some point, we started pushing ourselves so much, and now every time Evernote is writing about tasks, these guys has been brainwashed so much that they're instantly just like, swipes, task, okay, we're going to write about it. So we're included now everywhere when they're writing it, because we just keep going and keep persisting, right? So what has it given us? It gave us 24,000 Evernote users, which for us is much more engaged users than the average user. So first of all, it proved a point that we're on track. If people are mixing up the different things they're working with, it's more valuable for them and they stick better. We get higher retention. But also we got that credibility for being partnering up with this big giant, and now it's much easier when we're trying to open doors to new partnerships and all that to get open the doors. So yeah, that's pretty much it. You need to show them that you're worth it, and you just push. There's no one that's going to do it for you. Make your influence in there and push yourself around as much as possible. Yeah, that's what I have for today with these two strategies, with media and with the partnerships. And I would love to get a discussion going, and if you have any questions, to keep it rocking. So thank you very much.